Welcome to episode 49 of the FoodGrads Podcast, the podcast where we explore careers in the food, beverage, and agricultural industries. I'm your host, Veronica Hislop, a PhD candidate in molecular science and career partner with FoodGrads. This week on the podcast, I interviewed Tia Glave, food safety, quality, and regulatory consultant and co-founder of Catalyst LLC. Catalyst LLC was created in 2021 by Tia Glave and Jill Stuber. Catalyst is a comprehensive and holistic coaching program for creating transformational change within people and organizations towards the ultimate food safety and quality culture. On this week's episode, Tia walked me through her career journey and how she found herself in food safety despite having a chemical engineering degree. Tia talked to me more about Catalyst and food safety consulting and the unique perspective that she and Jill takes when it comes to food safety. Tia has a strong passion for helping all size organizations, and you can just hear the enthusiasm in this episode about how she approaches systems thinking, which it's just such a cool topic in itself. We dive deep into what food safety culture is, not just what this new industry buzzword is, but like really what it means, but also why a company should adopt it. Finally, we talked about Tia's passion for championing Black talent in food safety, which has led to the development of the Black Professionals in Food Safety and Quality Group. So, enough with that introduction. Let's get on with the show. Thank you so much, Tia, for coming on the show. I am loving what you, and I know you'll get into this more in the episode, but what you and Jill are doing with Catalyst and your food safety talks that you're doing on Wednesdays. And it's really great that you're putting this positive, but also technical discussions that really need to happen in the industry and just like bringing that togetherness that I think that food safety so needs on the outside and bringing people in. So thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about being a part of the podcast and learning from you and hearing from you and just sharing my path. And yeah, what Jill and I are doing, we love what we're doing. We're passionate about what we're doing. And yeah, we love it.
It's very clear because when I first came across Catalyst on my LinkedIn, I was like, what's with these sunny rays and food safety and just like these great smiling faces that are like talking in depth about important topics, but doing it in such an approachable way. I love it.
Yeah. And that's what we really like to do. We want to talk about these topics. We want to learn from each other. We really do feel like in order the buzzword, and I know we're going to get into it even more, is food safety culture, right?
Mhm.
And a piece of that is that in order to have a strong and sustainable food safety culture, we really do need to share best practices and learn from each other. And that's really what our Real Talk Food Safety on Wednesdays at noon Eastern Time on LinkedIn is all about. We want to share, we want to hear from other people, and we really want to use that avenue to help us grow each other. And so, we're super passionate about that and we're passionate about learning from others and sharing. So that has just given us an avenue to do that.
That is amazing. And I'm definitely going to want to dive more into that. But I think for our audience, I think it would be so essential to know how you got into food safety, how it's led you to this philosophy that you have towards it. So would you be able to start with your career journey and then we'll see where that takes us?
Yeah, absolutely. I really stumbled into food and I stumbled into food safety and quality. My background is in chemical engineering. So I went to the University of Tennessee. I got a degree in chemical engineering with biomolecular concentration. During school, our curriculum is really focused on the oil and gas industry and the chemical refinery industry. And that's what I did during school. I co-opted, I interned, and I realized that I really didn't want to do that coming out of school. And so that forced me to look at other opportunities. What else can chemical engineers do? And, I met a lot of chemical engineers, obviously, in the oil and gas, the chemical refinery world. And I noticed they were doing a lot of different things, even within those companies. So, I had a lot of mentors that talked about you really can do anything with a chemical engineering degree. So I was at the crossroads of I need to figure out what else can I do. And, I went to a conference. I was a part of the National Society of Black Engineers, and I went to their national conference, and they had this huge job fair there. And so I went to the job fair and I met so many companies, and many of them were food companies. And they were hiring engineers, and I just did not realize that was an area to go in. And so I interviewed with a bunch of food companies, but one company in particular stood out to me. I love the people that I met. I love the culture that they gave off, and they were fun and full of energy. And I still talk to these people today because they have helped shape who I am. And those people were with General Mills. And so I hired in, and they had a few options on where I can go into from a rotational program standpoint. And I chose the quality side. And I had no idea what I was getting into. I just
Yeah.
decided that, okay, this is something that's different and I want to try it out. And so I started working at our location in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and I loved it. Being a part of a rotational program, I had the opportunity to do some operations, people management really early on, really within the first, 3 to 4 months of starting my role. I was managing a second shift operations team.
Wow.
Um, and it was exciting for me. And I knew at that moment I loved people development, and I wanted to help people grow and help them grow into their full capabilities and help them guide them to where they want to be. So I knew at that moment very early on that I loved food safety and quality. I loved what I was doing there, and I loved developing people. And the more I kind of grew up in my career at General Mills, I was there for almost 6 years. I developed a love for broad thinking and strategy development, and really thinking about where are we today and where do we need to go into the future. And so with that experience, I did so many things in food safety there. I was really fortunate to lead food safety and quality, our food safety team for our facility. I had the opportunity to do a bunch of startups and line extensions and be a part of policy development, our global policy team. And I had the opportunity to really learn from so many different things that when I left General Mills, my husband and I, who we met at General Mills actually,
Oh,
um,
wow.
we wanted to live in a city, and New York City has always called to us. And so we really just picked up and moved to New York. And when I say picked up and moved, well, we sold almost everything, and everything that we had could fit into a small U-Haul truck.
Oh my
And so
gosh. Oh my
it was
gosh.
the craziest thing that we did. As a matter of fact, when we went up there, we didn't even have an apartment because the apartment that we thought we were going to have fell through. And so we were actually sleeping on an air mattress at a student studio apartment because he was in school. And so luckily we only had to stay on his air mattress for about 3 days. And he was a med school student, so he was always gone. But yeah, like literally the story that you hear about moving to the city, that was us.
You guys are crazy. Oh my.
I know. So when I got to New York, I really that's where I got the opportunity to go into startups. And while I was in New York, I supported some organizations that really were one was a true startup, the other one was a startup when it came to food safety and quality. And it really gave me a new insight into what organizations need. There's so many more startup companies out there, or the small to medium sized companies that don't have everything figured out. General Mills doesn't have everything figured out, but at least my location had so many resources
Mhm.
that we really were working on continuous improvement type efforts or new product rollouts. But once I got into the startup world and started meeting other people and talking with other companies, I really realized that organizations don't know how to build a food safety and quality strategy and integrate that into the way that they do business. Typically, organizations, especially startups, they hear food safety terms like HACCP or supplier control or testing, micro testing, and they think, oh, I need to do that. I need someone to build my HACCP plan. Okay, next I need someone to do this micro thing. And next I need them to do this over here. But they really don't take a look at their full business and think about, where am I today? Where am I going to be 3 years from now, 5 years from now? Who do I want to be as an organization? And how do I integrate the things that I need to do from a food safety and quality? How do I integrate that into my business strategy and be planful and mindful about the things that I'm doing around food safety risk? And what I found is that a lot of people spend a lot of money on things that they didn't necessarily even need right now, because they really didn't understand food safety and how that related to their business strategy. So once I kind of gotten out of, I would say, corporate America world and went into consulting, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to help organizations build a strategy around food safety and quality and integrate it into their business. And so I was consulting for a few months, and Jill and I had met some time before I got into consulting, and we knew our synergies matched. And so we talked, we tried to do some partnership things together, and that didn't really work out. And I remember her saying, Tia, we're going to work together. We don't know how yet, but we're going to work together. And so, I continued consulting. She continued doing her business. And then finally it clicked that what we're trying to do is so similar. And she really had this leadership development piece that she solely focused on at the time. And I was focusing on programs and strategy development. And one day it just clicked that in order to have a sustainable food safety culture, you need both. You need to have that technical strategy development. You need to have the technical skills. And then the part that people typically don't think about at all is that you need to have those leadership, soft skills also on your team. And so once we figured out, okay, we are two sides of the same coin, let's join forces. And then that's how Catalyst was created. And so then my career moved into full-on consulting with Jill at Catalyst. And now we help our clients with program development and understanding their risk and integrating food safety into their business, as well as leadership development courses to help technical experts move into technical leadership. So that's what I'm doing right now. And we are excited about it. We started Catalyst informally last October, and we officially kicked off our Catalyst earlier this year. And we've helped so many people so far. We're just looking forward to helping more and really shape the industry, particularly around food safety culture.
Love it. And that is by no means little at all in terms of what you're doing. And honestly, recently, I've really just started to get into understanding what consulting is, because I felt, with food safety, I think that, to be honest, as working like a short period of time in like a QC role and a QA, I've always just had my mind of that's what food safety is. Like that is what, get these tests done, do make sure you're following regulations. But as I continue to learn more, or I'm following with things that the two of you are posting, I'm realizing that there's so much more to what food safety is like. And going back to that idea of like culture, and to think that one thing that stood out, what you mentioned, was that with businesses that they're spending money on things that they might not even have to do yet, which it can be so complex, and not knowing where to go. And even when you're in school, I think it can be hard to wrap your mind around that there is more to food safety. Coming back to thinking about university courses or college courses, when you go to school, you get those technical things. I'm going to learn how to do a HACCP plan. I'm going to learn how to do microbiology. And then for your, I don't want to say like your liberal course, they call it liberal arts courses at where I am. So it might be learning about, like I learned about spies. That has nothing to do with chemistry. You're required to take it. And it'd be really interesting if these schools made you think about like, how do you do systems thinking, like do a whole course on that type of thing. And it's just, you don't even know to think about it because you're just not exposed to it. And
Right.
having those individuals like you who are in consulting, who've gone through the processes and you're seeing it at a higher level, it's really would be helpful for people who are new to it, because a lot of startups, not all of them,
Yeah.
but a lot of them are not coming from, years of experience working at like General Mills or something and then going, I'm going to make my own product. It's a
Right.
lot of
Yeah.
individuals who are just, I have a good idea. I want to bottle my mom's tomato sauce and then
Right.
going from
Exactly.
there.
Exactly. You're so right. Some of the things like with students coming from school, graduating, going into their jobs, they really just have that technical piece. And honestly, it's just the surface of having a technical piece. You get a lot of that in your role, but a piece of that, and it's exactly what you're hitting on, is that you have to learn how to think about it in a different way and not just take the technical pieces that or the technical pieces that you're learning. You have to be able to think about, okay, when do I apply these things? When do I say, no, I don't need to do these things? We kind of talk about it when it comes to like risk assessment or even like problem solving, like thinking through these systems to say, okay, this is when I need to purchase a metal detector. This is when I need to test for these certain types of micro and not others. This is when I need to swab 100 sites versus swabbing 10. That type of critical thinking right now, you may get that on a job if you're part of an organization that teaches those things, but a lot of organizations don't because they are in this world, like what you said, they had just a great idea and they go into this food business, but they don't have the food safety background. And I always tell people that I run into is that if you are a food business, you should have a food safety and quality professional at your reach. And depending on the size of your organization, it doesn't mean that that person needs to be a full-time person on your team. It could mean that you are linked to a consultant that you can ask those questions to, that you can talk about your business plan and think about food safety and quality and how to integrate food safety and quality into your co-packer search or your own self-manufacturing ability. You should have some person you can reach out to and make sure that you are on the right path. Otherwise, you'll find that, oh, we've been in business for 10 years, but our food safety culture, our food safety systems are really at ground zero. And so now, instead of spending incremental money throughout the years to make sure that your food safety culture is growing with your business, now you're at the point where, okay, you need to invest a significantly more amount of money to just get your systems up to where you are in your business. And that's what we want to help organizations understand, is that if you start working on food safety early on, even quality early on, then your cost is different. It's different and it's more manageable than saying, okay, I'm 10 years in and I need to make a change because I got a warning letter from a regulatory body, or now people really don't want to buy my products. I'm getting a lot of complaints because I'm having quality issues. You want to avoid that. You want to prevent that from happening. Otherwise, you're going to be spending a lot more money than you anticipated.
It's really interesting to point out. And even as we talk, I know it's true, but it's hard for me to conceptualize like food safety saves money. Like I think it's a really hard thing for
Yeah.
people to grasp. And one other thing that you pointed out is by having that consultant on the side or just having someone who's out, it can also be a good higher level look over what's going on, because working in quality and the day to day will really catch up. Like it really catches up with you because you're trying to manage the day to day. How can you even possibly start thinking about like an overarching when you're just trying to get like the line that came out today and you're trying to get the 10 samples out the door in order to be tested for something? It's like, when am I supposed to spend the time to do something that I can't see direct results? Because that, I think, is hard a little bit. It's not, here's the goal, now I'm going to see that tomorrow. Like it's something that
Right.
comes with time.
Yeah, yeah, and it takes resources to be able to do that. And you're right. If you don't have the resources internally, you really do need to connect with someone like a consultant that can help you think about these things. And then we're talking about being a consultant in food safety, but one thing that's different at Catalyst is that we are that business partners for an organization. So we really do focus on that business development, strategy planning, people leadership piece, not just program development. So many consultants they are going to give you the programs and it's going to be great and you're going to be able to execute and you're going to be able to have show FDA when they come in or USDA when they come in. But many consultants are even missing that strategy piece. And that's where we really wanted to focus on at Catalyst. That's really what makes us different, is that we really are the business partners that organizations need from a food safety standpoint.
Let's talk a little bit more about that because I feel like sometimes people can throw out the word leadership or like independence or those types of things. But what does that like? How do you really how do you go about that to make sure that these changes happen? Because for some organizations, it'll be like, let's put on a presentation and we'll talk about it for an
Right.
hour. And then now all of a sudden you are going to be the one who's magically integrating everything that you learned from that 20-minute presentation or hour. Like how do you go about that in Catalyst to help that leadership and that associated things come through and get seen in the organization?
Yeah. So we have a series of programs. Where, depending on how the organization is coming to us and depending on where they are in their food safety journey, we will recommend certain programs, leadership programs for them to go through. And so when we think about individual leadership, we really start most of our people out at this early leader development. And I want to say that all of our leadership development courses are really based off of these technical skills. And what we found in our careers is that as we go through leadership development, most of us have been through some type of leadership development. And it's typically from a viewpoint that is not food safety and quality. So it's difficult to apply or see how it applies to the work that we do. So at Catalyst, with our leadership development programs, it is very technically sound in food safety and quality in technical roles. So we also have people in R&D that has gone through our technical leadership development programs. And so we reroute that in technical skills, and we talk about during our development courses on how you can take these leadership skills and apply them technically. And so again, and one thing that makes us different is that all of our courses come with group sessions. And in these group sessions, you have the opportunity to talk with other people that's enrolled in the program. And we share best practices, we talk about case studies, and we really talk about how you are applying this week after week. And don't get me wrong, like sitting through other leadership courses, it is up to you to do the work. You have to
Mhm.
do the work within your role. But we have these accountability sessions that really help you think about and hold yourself accountable to getting the work done. And so, depending on where you are in your development journey, we start a lot of people out on the early technical leadership program. We then move people into that strategic leader program where we're focusing more on how do you be that strategic leader and think broader than just, I need to get these samples done today or I need to get these samples done in 2 weeks. Now you're thinking broader as a leader on, okay, what should my team be doing over the next year or over the next 2 years, over the next 5 years. And then we move people into what we call our integrated leader program. And at that level, you're really starting to think about how does food safety and quality integrate into the business? So you're no longer looking at food safety as this separate function over here, operating on their own in
Mhm.
operations, maintenance, engineering, marketing, whoever calls on us when it says, oh man, we need that food safety. Can you give it to us? Now you're really thinking about, well, how do you integrate food safety into product development, into commercialization, into trialing, into marketing, in copywriting, into sales? How do you integrate these food safety processes within those processes? So you are really thinking about food safety in the beginning and you're preventing a lot of issues down the line. And I say food safety, this is also the same for quality, that you're building that in early on so that you're not having quality issues later on down the road. And so that's how we kind of look at technical leadership development in particular. And we meet you where you are. Some people are already ready for that integrated leadership piece, and that's where we put them. And that's where we really start to hone in on the things that they need to do today in order for them to become integrated over time. And then we also let our clients know that this takes time. Like you said, a 20-minute presentation and then you go forth and do it never works out.
Yep.
It really takes time. It takes time honing in on these skills and practicing them every day and accountability piece. So when I say that Catalyst, we are partners, that's exactly where we are. We partner with our clients in order to make these changes year after year. So we don't just say, hey, take our course and that's it. It's more like, take our course, let's talk about it, let's learn from it, let's talk about how you're going to apply it, let's check in. Great, that is going well for 6 months. Let's talk about our next step. Let's talk about where we go. Let's talk about what you need to do next. Let's apply it. Let's learn from it. It's this cyclic thing, like where we talk about it over and implement and provide that feedback. And oh, we rolled out something 6 months ago and we've been talking about it. We haven't talked about it for a couple of months. And now people are like, should we need to do it? We go back and reinforce. And so that's what's needed from a sustainable food safety culture. It has to be an everyday conversation. It has to be feedback loops and continuous improvement and reviews, at least on an annual basis, where you are thinking about how to improve your programs year over year and think about how you can easily integrate them into your business year after year.
The first thing that comes to my mind as you've been talking about this is this makes it seem kind of fun. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like with food safety, it is a very important role. It's very, if something goes wrong, bad things really will happen. If a product goes out and then it has to be recalled and someone gets sick, like people's lives are affected, that there's a level of seriousness, of course, that has to come from the role. But to be able to integrate fun in a way that let's improve ourselves, let's get better, it can make the job feel more fulfilling. It can bring more people together. And I think that is just a lovely sentiment to be able to think about. And I think that Catalyst, it sounds, is helping to bring forth that little fun through continuous improvement, but by improving yourself, you are therefore helping the customer. So it's like a win-win-win situation.
Absolutely. And food safety and quality, it is fun, especially when you are, like you said, focused on continuous improvement of systems and of yourself. And it's so rewarding when you have an issue and you solve it. And
Mhm.
not just you solving it, but your whole team solves it. Like, I know that there's been issues that I've ran into, and it's like, oh, we got a customer complaint about this. And actually, we get quite a bit of customer complaints about this issue. And you have conversations with the operating team about it. And we're like, hey, like, I want to get this complaint, I want to get these complaints down. And everyone's on board with it. And you're like, okay, what do we need to do? Let's problem solve this out. Oh, we think this is the root cause. Let's solve it. And you solve it and you monitor complaints and you're like, we have not gotten a complaint for this issue in months. And then it becomes in years. And then no one's ever thinking about it. Like, we're celebrating. We're like, I've had operators come up to me and say, hey, have you seen any complaints on this issue? That's when you know food safety is integrated, right? Like when
Okay.
operators coming up to you saying, hey, have you seen any complaints around this issue? Or, hey, I see this issue. Did we see any complaints around it? Does consumers care about this? Oh, let me check into that. They absolutely care. What do you think should happen? How do you think we should solve it? That's when you know you have an integrated food safety culture, because it's not just the food safety and quality team out there solving issues or identifying issues. Everyone is doing that. And when you solve issues like that, it's very rewarding and it's fun. It really is fun. Even processes, when you're thinking about commercialization and bringing a new product to market, when you do that and know that your product is safe for consumption and that you're not going to have a bunch of quality issues that you're going to have to go back and spend money and solve, it's so rewarding to just get that product out and hear great feedback and know it's on the shelves and you're buying it for your family and you're telling everyone about it.
Yep.
Like, that is so rewarding. versus I've been a part of startups where it's okay, we're going to start up this product, but we know we have to go back and reformulate. That's not
Oh,
a fun launch, right? Like that's
that's
not a fun. We're glad it's on shelf, but we have so much work ahead of us that we can't even celebrate. We don't want that to happen. We want to prevent that because again, it's money down the drain. And when you say food safety and quality saves money, we absolutely do. And people don't think about it in that way. They think about, oh, food safety, you're asking for money all the time. And you're really not giving anything back. We're preventing spending in the future. And then if you have the right partners, we also identify cost savings, especially from a quality standpoint. Like we are business partners. Food safety and quality, we are business partners. Catalyst helps organizations realize that and use food safety and quality to its full potential as true business partners. And that's what we focus on. And really, that's fun for me. That's the reason why I do Catalyst.
I can tell just from the way that you're talking throughout this episode, like you're just so excited about it, and talking about helping others. I can see why you want to keep doing it and putting out this message. And I want to just go a little deeper into something because I think we have talked, like, we've definitely talked about food safety culture and we've talked about in a general sense, but I have a two-part question I wanted to ask in the sense of one of the things that I want to know directly from you is what is a sustainable food safety culture and like what is one of the biggest struggles of companies actually implementing this culture?
Yeah. So, what is a sustainable food safety culture? Honestly, that's the big question, right? And I would say, before I give my answer and how we think about it at Catalyst, food safety culture has become a buzzword and it's starting to be used in the regulatory and auditing scheme space. And eventually there's going to be some way that FDA will come in or your auditing scheme will come in and say, well, do you have food safety culture? And you show them a survey or you show them,
Mm-hmm.
a sentence that all your leadership has signed and everyone's going to check it off and everyone's going to feel great about it. For us, that's not a sustainable food safety culture. For us, sustainable food safety culture is having food safety and quality integrated into the way that you do business. And it's a focus on having strong technical skills from a food safety and quality standpoint, making sure that your team have those strong technical skills, that they're technical experts, and then making sure that they also have strong leadership skills, and then integrating those things into the business. It really, when you think about it's a program thing, it's a people thing, and it's a systems thing. And all three of those have to be at expert level and they have to be integrated into the business. And so, one thing that companies struggle around food safety culture is that number one, they don't want to invest resources to have a sustainable food safety culture. So, what I mean by that is that someone might be leading food safety and quality, but they don't have a food safety and quality background. They have no true technical skill in food safety and quality. Or the person that's leading food safety and quality, they also have 5 other jobs. Maybe they're also
Mm-hmm.
managing maintenance or they're managing operations or they're managing marketing. Don't they're not really focused on food safety. It's almost like food safety is an afterthought. Or the third thing from a resource standpoint is that they don't actually invest enough monetary resources into food safety. They're not upgrading their systems, whether or not that's electronic paperwork or electronic systems or technology, or even how you move product from point A to point B. Maybe you need an upgrade. Maybe you need better pallet jacks, or maybe you need an outside service to come in and PM your equipment. But the company has decided, no, we don't really want to spend that money. We want to continue having people that don't know about the equipment service it. That's a huge risk. And your food safety culture is not going to be built correctly or really be sustainable doing that. So I would say they struggle with putting together the right resources for food safety and quality. They don't And this might even be a resource standpoint, but it's really they don't have the right technical skills. And so they don't really know what technical skills their food safety and quality team should have. And therefore, they can't go out and get them. So at Catalyst, one thing that we do is that we help organizations assess what technical skills do you have, what technical skills are missing, what technical skills do you need, and then how to close that gap. Because that's a huge piece of a sustainable culture. And then a third thing that people struggle with is really moving their technical experts into being technical leaders. There's one thing about knowing everything about microbiology, but if you can't communicate the need to the organization or communicate results to the organization, your food safety culture is going to struggle. And people have to learn how to be leaders, have to learn how to communicate technical knowledge, have to learn how to not be overwhelmed by it. Like sometimes we are just overwhelmed and overworked as a food safety and quality team. And that that is a part of the struggle of food safety and quality culture is that your team is overworked. We focus on those things. We focus on workload capacity and what needs to happen around that piece. So I would say those leadership skills people struggle with. And then the third thing that I would say that people struggle with is integration of food safety and quality. And we talked a lot about this throughout the episode, but organizations struggle to integrate food safety and quality into their business. They struggle to talk about food safety at the very beginning. And it could be because they don't have a resource at the table, or it could be that the resource don't have the leadership skills, or that the organizations don't have the systems in place to make sure that happens. It could be different for all companies, but we see that they struggle with that integration. And that's one of the reasons why Catalyst focuses on that integration, is because that's a huge piece of what a sustainable food safety culture means.
I love that you've covered so many different aspects. And one thing that I also appreciate is your ideas or your response. It didn't really throw shade at maybe like an upper management or saying, oh, it's just because people don't care. But like there's more to it than just people work in food safety because they care about it. And maybe something might not be working out. It's not because they're intentionally not wanting it to be poor. It's just they don't have the skills. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the time. So really coming in with the clients, working at it and seeing those long-term results by chipping away at like different aspects, because food safety, as you've been mentioning again through this episode, is very all-encompassing. It's not a department living in the room at the side trying to come out to the line and be like, no, you're wrong. That's not ever what they want. They want to be working as coworkers, as close. You all have the same goal at the end, is to make like a good quality food safe product that helps the company be sustainable in itself too.
Exactly. And that's so important. And I've said that to my teams many times throughout my career, is that everyone wants to get cases out the door. That's how we get paid. Like you making product, that's how we get paid. Even as a consultant, if my clients don't make product, then they can't pay me as a consultant.
That's true.
And so everyone's goal is to get product out the door. And we want that product to be safe, and we want it to be of high quality so that people will come back. And so, I used to tell my team when I worked at a meal kit company, it was like, we're not in the business of selling one meal to a person. We're in the business of a person coming back and getting meals week after week. That's how the business is sustained. And in order to do that, the food has to be safe and it has to be high quality. So we all have the same goal. It's all about just realizing that the things that you're doing is contributing to that goal. Or the things that you're not doing is preventing you from getting to that goal. I've never ran into someone that works at an organization that did not care. Most people care about what they're doing. Most people eat the food that they make. So they feed it to themselves, they feed it to their kids, they feed it to their grandparents, their nieces and nephews, right? Like they feed it to their family. So most people care about the food. It's just, how do we get on the same page around how do we get to the path of safe quality food, and knowing that it's safe quality food every single time? Those are the discussions. Those are the conversations to have. And it's built off of that technical skill, the technical experts being technical leaders, and then ensuring that your food safety systems are integrated into your business systems.
That makes sense. And, one thing I have to shift the conversation because I don't want to go to the end of this episode without asking and bringing and showing some light on something that, again, I've seen come up on your LinkedIn. And I'm really excited to share is that I know that you had started the Black Professionals in Food Safety group that's been popping up. And I wanted to know, where did that come from? How's it going? And you got to tell us more.
Yes, absolutely. So I kicked off the Black Professionals in Food Safety and Quality networking group this past December. And we've been having networking and developing meetings every month since January. And our next one is actually this upcoming Monday. So depending on when this podcast pops out, it may have passed, may not have passed. But we meet every third Monday of the month. And yeah, the thing that inspired me about it is that being a Black female, sometimes I'm the only woman in the room. Sometimes I'm the only Black woman in the room. And many times I'm the only Black food safety and quality professional in the room. And I've always had a passion for DEI. I've always been a part of affinity groups and resource groups. I've always been a leader in those groups. I've actually started the resource groups at many of the companies that I've been in, helped other organizations that I had nothing to do with start their employee resource groups as well. So it's always been a passion of mine. But the thing that truly inspired me is that I wanted to grow my network of Black professionals. And I really couldn't say, oh, yeah, I know Black food safety and quality consultants out there. When I started my consultants, I only knew one that I had worked with in the past. And so I'm just kind of thinking through man, I want to know who's out there. And then I want to inspire other Black students to go into food safety and quality, which the whole food safety and quality industry is trying to get people in there. Sometimes when industries are focusing on hiring more people, they lose track of where Black professionals are and how to recruit them. And so I wanted to be a part of that and making sure that Black professionals are also becoming a part of food safety. And so all of those things helped inspired me to start this group. And then I have a leadership team, and my vice chair actually said, hey, Tia, you need to start this group. I've been talking about it for months. I've been thinking about it for years. And she was like, I'll help you. Let's get started. And we did. We kicked it off in December, and we started the meetings in January. And I don't know why I decided to start a networking group, a company, and have a baby within 6 months, but that's what happens.
Sometimes when the ball is rolling, you just got to keep going with it.
Exactly. And it's been so rewarding. We have about 50 to 60 people that have taken our intake form. We meet, like I said, every month, every third Monday, and we really do have a great discussion around different food safety and quality topics that are happening in the industry that's impacting their roles. And it's really just a discussion-based group. And I've met so many people and have become a resource for so many people, and they've become a resource for me. This group is only going to grow and grow.
Mhm.
This is the first group like this out there. And so I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the support. I'm excited about the people that's in the group and really shaping it into what we want it and need it to be.
That's awesome. And it's great that you chose, let's start the group on LinkedIn. It's very accessible. It's not, let's make another account on some other website. It's
Right.
very accessible for many others. And is the group open to maybe students who are interested in the topic? Are we just sticking to professionals currently working in the field?
That's a really good question. My goal is to connect these professionals with students. So if students are interested in being a part of the conversation, absolutely. We have goals to develop mentor groups into the future once we get our footing. And a piece of that, many of our members have already asked, how do we connect to students? How do we get them into the space? How do we help be a resource to them? Absolutely. If you're a student, a Black student that's going through their studies and thinking about going into food safety and quality, please reach out to me because I can connect you with people in the group. And you can sit in on our discussions and kind of learn a little bit more and be a little ahead of the game on what's
I
in the
love to hear
industry.
that. Love to
Yes,
hear that type of stuff. And having more positive groups that you can also be comfortable that aren't necessarily in your organization, learn
right.
from those experiences and learn things that you might not even know that you needed to learn, or like
Mhm.
address challenges or have some insights before you even go into that challenge. And then you go, oh,
Exactly.
my mentor talked about this or the group talked about this. I know what to do.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah. So that's been a lot of fun and very rewarding as well.
That's so good. I wish again, I looking at the time, I wish that we had another hour to start to talk
I
even
know.
more because there's so much that we could continue to talk about. But
Yeah.
alas, we are at the end of the episode. But I have to ask, what piece of advice would you give students who want to go into food safety for a career or quality?
Yeah. I would say the big advice that I would give students that's looking into going into food safety and quality, I would say start to build your network now. Reach out to people and learn about what they're doing, learn about how you can fit into the industry. But then this network can be your network of mentors. That was one thing I talked about at the beginning of the episode is that I didn't have a background in food. I didn't even know food was an option until I was in it. If I had, so I had to build my network when I got into the organization. And then you don't know how to do that. So you start with inside the company. And then when I left General Mills, it was like, man, there's this whole other world that I hadn't connected with. And so that's when I really learned how important it is to have a network inside of your company as well as outside of your company. And so as a student, you can start that early. Reach out to me, reach out to Veronica, reach out to Jill, reach out to people that are in food safety and quality and just learn from them and keep them in your network so that when you're out in the industry, you can call them up and say, hey, I remember you talking about metal detection. Now I'm being tasked with this project. Can we talk a little bit about it? Absolutely. People are so happy to help and make sure that you are on the right path. So that would be my advice. Start
That's
your network early and use it.
that's great advice. And I'm gonna leave it there because this hour has flown by. And
Yeah.
again, if those who are listening to this episode are more interested to hear you talk more about everything that you have, of course, you got to check out Catalyst and check out their conversation series on Wednesdays. I think that's the correct date. And
Yeah.
just about the different topics, because there are some great discussions. And you and Jill have already put out so much great content. And I believe it's accessible to those after the events. They can still watch it, correct?
Absolutely. We post all of our videos on our YouTube channel. So search for Catalyst LLC on YouTube, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. Because we post the episode every week if you cannot make it. Because we do the live on Wednesdays at noon Eastern time, and sometimes people can't make it. So we do make all of that accessible on and available on our YouTube.
Excellent. And I'll make sure to link it in the show notes, make it much easier for those to access that. So, with that, thank you so much, Tia, for coming on the show. This was a great conversation, and I'm so happy to learn more and just understand more what consultants do from a food safety and just seeing people make food safety fun. Like, I love it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Veronica. I think the work that you are doing at FoodGrads is amazing.
Thank you.
And we're so happy to be a part of it. And yeah, we look forward to do it even more. And you know that I'm a part of your network. And so thank you for having me.
That was episode 49 of the FoodGrads Podcast. All the notes to this podcast can be found on the FoodGrads blog or by clicking on the Student and Grads tab on the homepage. There you can find any notes to past or future episodes. Do you know anyone you would like me to interview on the show? Perhaps yourself, or maybe there's a specific career path you would like me to explore. Then reach out and let me know. You can email me at veronica@foodgrads.com or any of the FoodGrads social media channels. Hope to hear from you. Tia's doing phenomenal things for food safety professionals in the industry, bringing that energy that I just really think that the industry needs. Or maybe it already has it and I'm just kind of too outside of it to notice. But I think that for students, I think you guys got to know that food safety is such a valuable and an important profession, but it doesn't have to be super serious all the time. Like, it can be very fulfilling and fun too. It's fascinating how Tia is able to make food safety look so fun while simultaneously taking it so seriously and using strategies that work. If you haven't already checked out Catalyst's Real Food Safety Talks with Tia and Jill, then you need to. As of the release of this episode of the podcast, they're doing episodes every Wednesday on LinkedIn, but also they post all the episodes on YouTube. I was actually a guest myself on one of the episodes, and I was talking about my perspectives on the onboarding process as a student, and I'd like to say I had a few words to say. So if you want to check that out, then I will share it in the show notes. Anyways, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you everyone so much for listening, and I will see you next time.